This podcast contains graphic descriptions of violence and disturbing content related to real-life events, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, buckle up, everyone, because today we are diving headfirst into a mystery that just seems to defy explanation. The disappearance of Lord Lucan?
Yes.
Lord Lucan, a name that whispers of a vanished era.
A world of, what was it, glittering?
Aristocracy.
Yes, glittering aristocracy and those shadowy gambling dens.
Oh, I love that.
It's 1974 London, really a time of intrigue.
Absolutely. And we've got
And a mystery.
a mystery that has captivated people.
That has gripped the public imagination for
decades.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've got this incredible collection of sources for this deep dive.
Oh, this is a good one. We've got crime scene photos, witness testimonies, personal letters.
We've even got some social commentary from the time, which I think is going to be really interesting to kind of...
Oh, fascinating to see how this case was viewed as it was unfolding.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what was the public reaction?
What were people saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all in there.
So I guess the big question is, who was Lord Lucan?
Hmm.
Right. Like, when you hear that name...
Yeah, when you hear that name.
You think stately homes, high society.
You think privilege, you think.
Yeah, but what was he really like?
Right, behind the title.
As a person.
Who was the man?
Yeah.
Well, Richard John Bingham, the 7th Earl of Lucan.
Okay.
He was a complicated guy, complex figure.
I'm already seeing that in the sources.
Yeah, right. He had this charm, good looks,
That roguish charisma.
Oh, yes. Roguish
Yeah.
charisma, war hero, professional gambler.
Wow.
A fixture in London's most exclusive circles.
Living the high life.
It sounds glamorous, doesn't it?
It does.
But there were cracks.
There were cracks beneath the surface.
Yes, and you can see that starting to come through in some of these sources.
Oh, absolutely. It's right there in the financial records.
Yeah.
The court documents.
Yeah?
Mounting gambling debts.
Oh.
A bitter custody battle.
And a failing marriage.
All falling apart.
It seems like everything in his life was sort of...
Unraveling.
Yeah. Unraveling. Yeah. And this is all happening, against this backdrop of social and economic upheaval in 1970s Britain.
Ooh, interesting.
The aristocracy is losing its grip.
They're starting to lose that power.
Yeah, the old order's crumbling.
Okay, so it's like his personal crisis is all tied up in this bigger societal shift.
Intertwined, absolutely.
Yeah.
It really suggests that Lucan's actions, whatever they were, weren't just isolated events. They were part of a larger narrative, about power, about privilege, and the consequences of a changing world.
Okay, so we've got this context.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward now to the night of November 7th, 1974.
All right.
46 Lower Belgrave Street.
Yes, Lady Lucan's home.
Yes. The sources here paint a very chilling picture of what happened.
It's a rainy London evening. You can almost feel it, right?
Yeah.
The scene is set.
Yeah, and then in the basement.
In the basement.
Sandra Rivett.
The family's nanny.
The nanny is brutally attacked.
Attacked with a lead pipe.
A lead pipe?
Yeah. It's brutal.
No, Lady Lucan was attacked as well that night, right?
Yes. She was attacked, but she managed to escape.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She ran to a nearby pub covered in blood.
And she identifies her attacker as
her estranged husband.
Lord Lucan.
Lord Lucan himself.
Okay, and this is where that mistaken identity theory comes in, right?
Right, because there's evidence suggesting that Sandra Rivett might have been mistaken for Lady Lucan.
Okay.
The layout of the house.
The layout of the house.
The dimly lit basement. Sandra was making tea at the time.
Oh, interesting.
Which was a task usually done by Lady Lucan.
Okay, so all of that kind of...
It fuels that theory, yeah.
Yeah, but if we kind of take a step back and look at this through like a more analytical lens, what does the physical evidence tell us?
Good question. Good question.
Does anything like support or contradict the idea that the attacker was specifically going after Lady Lucan?
Well, the sources describe a struggle in the basement.
Okay.
A chaotic struggle, suggesting, maybe some confusion on the part of the attacker.
Okay.
But then you have the brutality of the attack on Sandra.
Yeah.
And Lady Lucan's account of being attacked by her husband.
Right.
It complicates things. It really does.
So it's like we've got these pieces of the puzzle, but they're not quite fitting together.
They're conflicting.
Yeah. On the one hand, it could be mistaken identity, but on the other hand, there's this violence.
For a level of animosity.
Particularly towards Lady Lucan.
Yes, exactly.
So it really leaves us with more questions than answers at this point.
It does. It's perplexing.
Yeah.
And speaking of questions, After the attacks, Lord Lucan vanished.
Poof, gone.
Without a trace.
Did he leave anything behind, like any clues about where he went, what he was thinking?
He did, actually. Shortly after he disappeared, several letters were sent out.
Okay.
Allegedly written by Lucan to friends and family.
With friends and family.
Yeah, and in these letters, he's proclaiming his innocence.
Okay.
Claiming that he just stumbled upon the crime scene.
Oh, wow.
And that he was being framed by his estranged wife.
So rather than clear things up, it sounds like these letters actually made things even more mysterious.
They did. They really did. Because while they give us a glimpse into his perspective, they also raise suspicions, right?
Yeah.
Was he genuinely trying to clear his name?
Right.
Or was this a calculated attempt to, manipulate public opinion?
To kind of cover his tracks.
Cover his tracks.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so fascinating about this, right?
Absolutely.
It's like every piece of evidence we find just
more questions.
Generates more questions.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a puzzle box that you open and there's another puzzle box inside.
It's like a Russian nesting doll of mysteries.
Okay, yes.
And that leads us to the various theories
that
have been put forward to try and explain Lord Lucan's disappearance.
Right, because if those letters were part of a cover-up, what was he covering up?
Exactly.
Was it just a tragic accident like he claimed?
Was it an accident?
Or was there something more?
Something darker.
Yeah, more sinister at play.
Let's explore those possibilities.
Okay.
Let's start with the theory that Lord Lucan, overcome with guilt or fear, chose to end his own life.
Oh.
Suicide.
Okay.
Now, his car was found abandoned in New Haven.
Okay.
A coastal town,
Right on the coast.
Yeah. And that fueled speculation that he may have, drowned himself in the English Channel.
Oh.
Some sources even point to his history of, depression, impulsive behavior as possible indicators of suicidal tendencies.
But there were no witnesses.
Nobody.
So, I mean, that really leaves a lot of room for doubt, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
What about the other theories? Like, could he have, orchestrated an escape?
Ooh, that's a popular one.
Really?
Oh, yeah, especially considering his connections to, wealthy and influential figures.
Oh, right. He ran in those circles.
He did. And some sources even suggest that friends might have helped him flee the country, establish a new identity abroad.
It sounds like something out of a spy novel.
It does, doesn't it?
Like a clandestine operation to whisk a disgraced lord away from justice.
Under the cover of darkness.
And there have been alleged sightings of him all over the world, haven't there?
Oh, tons of them.
Really?
Over the years, yeah, reported sightings everywhere.
Yeah.
South Africa, Australia, even India.
Wow.
But none of these sightings have ever been, definitively confirmed.
It's like every time someone thinks they've finally found him,
the trail goes cold.
Yeah.
It's like he just vanished into thin air.
Which, just adds to the mystery, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But then there's perhaps the most intriguing and unsettling theory of all.
Okay, hit me with it.
That Lord Lucan was murdered.
Like murdered. But by whom and why?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Some sources speculate that his, gambling debts, his potential involvement with, shall we say, unsavory characters at the Claremont Club.
Oh, right. The Claremont Club, that was his haunt, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was, and this was a time when London's underworld had a significant grip on certain aspects of society.
So you're saying that someone he owed money to, or someone who wanted to silence him about something he knew, could have been responsible?
It's a possibility, and one that some investigators have explored extensively. Consider this. If Lucan did know something incriminating about powerful figures, his silence could have been more valuable than his debt.
Right, like removing him from the equation would be a way to protect their secrets, ensure their continued influence.
Exactly, and this theory is further fueled by the fact that, nobody was ever found.
Despite all those searches.
Despite extensive searches, yeah.
Could it be that those involved had the means and the motive to just dispose of any evidence?
It's a chilling thought, isn't it?
It is. I mean, this case just keeps getting deeper and deeper. We've gone from a possible suicide to a potential escape, and now we're talking about a possible murder conspiracy.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is.
But that's the beauty of a deep dive like this. We're not just scratching the surface here, we're peeling back the layers.
Yeah.
Uncovering the complexities and the nuances of this historical puzzle.
When we first started talking about Lord Lucan, I had this image in my head of,
an aloof aristocrat.
Yes, exactly.
Detached from reality.
Yeah, but now seeing him within the context of his time, his struggle.
The shadowy figures he associated with.
Yeah, it paints a much more complex picture.
It's like we've zoomed out from the initial crime scene, and now we're looking at a panoramic view of a society, its secrets.
And the lengths people will go to protect their power.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important to acknowledge that regardless of what happened to Lord Lucan, someone brutally lost their life that night.
Yes.
Sandra Rivett, the nanny.
Caught in the crossfire.
Yeah.
A tragic victim.
Okay, let's go back to the Claremont Club for a moment.
Right.
You mentioned that it wasn't just any gentleman's club.
Oh, no, not at all.
What made it so significant in this case?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the Claremont Club was notorious. It was a gambling den frequented by a mix of, high society figures.
Right.
And those operating in the darker fringes of London's elite.
Okay.
It was a place where fortunes were won and lost in a single night.
Oh, I bet.
And where discretion was paramount.
So high stakes.
High stakes.
And Lord Lucan, with his mounting gambling debts, was a regular...
Oh, he was a fixture there.
Do the sources shed any light on the specific individuals he associated with at the club? Could any of them have had a motive to harm him?
There's a lot of speculation in the sources about Lucan's connections at the Claremont.
Okay.
Some reports link him to some, notorious figures in London's underworld.
Okay.
Individuals with ties to organized crime.
Ooh, now this is getting really interesting. Are we suggesting that Lord Lucan might have gotten involved in something beyond his means?
It's a possibility, and one that several theories explore.
Okay.
Perhaps his debts weren't just financial,
Okay.
but involved, favors, secrets, maybe even illegal activities.
So instead of being a victim of circumstance, he might have been a willing participant in a dangerous game.
Exactly, and the stakes in this game were incredibly high.
Because?
Remember, this was a time of social and political change in Britain.
Right.
And those in power were fighting tooth and nail to maintain their control.
So it's like Lord Lucan was caught between two worlds, the fading world of the aristocracy
Yeah.
and the emerging world of those who operate outside the law.
On the fringes.
And his disappearance, whatever the cause, became a symbol of that.
Of those shifting power dynamics, yeah.
Wow, this is also fascinating.
It is.
But also, I have to admit, quite disturbing.
Yeah.
To think that someone like Lord Lucan, with all his privilege, all his connections, could just disappear.
Completely.
Leaving behind just rumors and unanswered questions.
That's why this case continues to captivate us, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Lord Lucan affair isn't just a cold case. It's a reflection of our own anxieties about power, about justice, and the elusive nature of truth.
Absolutely. And as we delve deeper into the details of this case,
Yeah.
we're kind of forced to confront uncomfortable truths about the society we live in.
We are. The Lord Lucan case reminds us that appearances can be deceiving.
Yeah.
Behind the facade of wealth and privilege, darkness can lurk.
And the pursuit of justice can be a long and winding road, often leading to more questions than answers.
It can be a labyrinth.
I mean, it's almost like his story became, like a blank canvas for people to just project their own theories onto?
I think you're right. I think that's a big part of why this case has endured.
Yeah.
That lack of a definitive answer, it lets our imaginations run wild.
Right. We get to fill in the gaps.
We speculate, we come up with our own explanations.
It becomes this shared mystery.
A puzzle that everyone can try to solve.
And let's be honest, everyone loves a good mystery.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially one that involves the elite.
Right. We get a glimpse behind the curtain.
Into a world that we normally wouldn't have access to.
Exactly. And that's where the Claremont Club becomes so central.
Right.
It represents that hidden world.
Yeah.
Where the rules of normal society don't apply.
And Lord Lucan, from everything we've seen, he was a man who thrived in that environment.
He did. Yeah.
But it's also an environment that comes with its own set of risks.
Oh, for sure.
Do you think that Lincoln's involvement in this world, the high-stakes gambling, the shadowy connections, do you think that ultimately contributed to his downfall?
Well, the sources certainly point in that direction.
Okay.
It's clear he was in deep, and not just to legitimate businesses.
Right.
His association with the Claremont put him in contact with some dangerous individuals who weren't afraid to use, let's say, unsavory methods.
So it wasn't just about the money.
No.
It was about the potential consequences.
Of owing the wrong people.
Yeah. What kind of pressure do you think he might have been under?
Imagine, being indebted to individuals who operate outside the law, who have no qualms about using violence, intimidation, or worse to get what they want.
That's a scary thought.
It is.
So Lucan's disappearance, whether it was voluntary or not,
Right.
could be seen as a desperate attempt to escape that pressure.
A way out.
But that raises another question.
Okay.
If he was murdered,
Yeah.
wouldn't those responsible want to make it clear?
That's a good point.
Send a message.
Why make him disappear?
Why all the mystery?
It suggests a certain level of sophistication,
Okay.
a desire to avoid attention.
Right. To keep things quiet.
Perhaps those involved had connections, that allowed them to operate with impunity.
Or maybe they wanted to create confusion.
Make it seem like Lucan had just run away.
So we're back to this idea of a cover-up. Powerful individuals using their influence
To control the narrative.
and protect their own interests.
Exactly. And that's where this case takes on a much broader significance.
Yeah.
It's not just about Lord Lucan anymore. It's about the potential for corruption, for the abuse of power.
It raises questions about who gets to control the story
Who benefits from silence?
and who ultimately pays the price.
It's a sobering thought.
It really is, and it makes you wonder, even if we could definitively solve this mystery,
Yeah.
would it really answer all the questions this case raises?
I don't know. Probably not.
It's like the Lord Lucan case is more than just a crime,
It's a mirror.
reflecting the complexity
The contradiction.
of a society in transition.
It exposes the dark underbelly of privilege
The allure of wealth and power.
and the fragility of truth.
As we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I'm left with this sense of unease. Like we've only just scratched the surface.
What, something much bigger?
Yeah, it's a reminder that sometimes the most captivating mysteries are those that remain unsolved.
I think you're right.
It's that lack of closure.
It forces us to confront the limits of our understanding.
To acknowledge that some truths may forever elude us.
The unknown.
What I find so intriguing is how this case continues to resonate with people.
Yeah.
Even today, decades later.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because the Lord Lucan case touches upon these universal themes.
Okay.
Human ambition, the desire for forbidden knowledge,
The consequences of our choices.
the search for justice.
In a world where it's often elusive,
Exactly.
it also speaks to our fascination with the unknown,
That need to make sense of the world around us.
even when the answers are hard to find.
The Lord Lucan case reminds us that sometimes the most important questions are the ones with no easy answers.
Well, listeners, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the Lord Lucan case.
A story that has gripped the public imagination for generations.
And one that continues to spark debate and speculation.
As we've explored the evidence, the theories, the historical context,
We've seen how this case reflects broader truth about power, about privilege, about the very nature of truth itself. And we encourage you to continue exploring this case, research the theories, draw your own conclusions.
who knows?
Maybe someday the truth about Lord Lucan will finally be revealed.
Until then.
The mystery lives on.